My main issues with the figure more or less has to do with the idea of the character itself, because yet again we're presented with another grey Decepticon. And I'm aware marketing deals are a thing, and AMG Yellow Beam Silver was the color they made the most of. But in my research, I found there's another stock color you could get for this car, and that was AMG Daytona Blue, which was this fantastic, dark, metallic blue color.
It just looks so grand. So let's just say alternate timeline-y stuff here. What if this was the Soundwave we got? Where all the robot parts we don't see in vehicle mode were silver, but the body parts stayed this rich, metallic blue.
Well, you know, funny thing about that. For some bizarre reason, the tail end of the Dark of the Moon line didn't see the light of day. Well, it did, but not on a wide scale. A lot of the toys weren't cancelled per se, but very small quantities actually made it out onto the market. And the one character that got the short end of the stick the most was Soundwave. 3 toys, Human Alliance, Deluxe, and Legion, all planned for the final wave of Dark of the Moon, and of course they all got cancelled. After the fact, people begged Hasbro to re-release them in some form. And they did. As a wave filler in the Transformers Prime Cyberverse line, Hasbro released a redeco of Legion Soundwave. As the intro suggests, this is a double homage to both his G1 self and the more common color that this car came in. But it's still pretty rare. For some reason, that wave was short-packed, so this guy just can't catch a break. Given how difficult it is to come across this figure, let's take a look if it's actually worth it. Ah yes, the ever-elusive Mercedes Alt Mode, not to be confused with the character from Fire Emblem Three Houses. The Alt Mode so elusive it almost cancelled 2 toys, and made a third-party company shut down. Although that one was mainly due to prostitution, which is apparently illegal in China, like what the f***? Now already the Mercedes Alt Mode is a pretty lush Alt Mode. It's nice, it's long, it's got some lovely details, but what really sells you on this version are the colours, both in sculpt work and in paintwork. This is some real good shit. Already the sculpting's great, and already it's got a lot of lovely paint on it. Hefty dose of silver on the parts here, and they've even painted the grille black, even though you can't really see it on the dark blue. There are actually 2 variants of the original Soundwave from Dark of the Moon. One of them had a painted grille, one of them didn't. So it's nice that they went with the painted grille, even though it doesn't really make sense with the blue color scheme here. But all of the windows are painted as well, something you don't really see on a lot of Legends figures. And the taillights as well. That is attention to detail. Plus they've even painted the vents here a bit and pinned wheels, so he rolls remarkably well. Just everything about this Alt Mode feels incredibly premium. And it is a massive, massive step up from the original Soundwave design. For those curious, let's bring in Studio Series Soundwave. Now what makes this guy so good? Well, the sculpting is great, the transformation is pretty fun, and the paintwork. We have a lovely silver deco that Studio Series is very well known for. The original Legion figure from Dark of the Moon didn't have that, it was just grey. And I even think it was Games Workshop grey, so yeah, not that great. This color scheme really sells it. I would have been happy for them to go with silver, but if they were going to re-release it, it was cool that they did something different. Doubly so because it's not just a reference to G1, it's also a reference to the car. I'm not a car guy, I'm not an accuracy guy, but those tiny little details, they are quite commendable. I think out of the Dark of the Moon line, it's probably one of my favourite Cyberverse vehicle modes, aside from maybe Sentinel Prime. Cyberverse didn't go nuts on the vehicle modes like Revenge of the Fallen did, but it did a pretty good job. Now size-wise, he is roughly 7.3 centimeters long, 3.3 centimeters wide, and 2 centimeters tall. And for size comparisons, here he is next to a standard Legion figure, a standard Legends figure, a standard Earthrise Micromaster, and Crumbs. Now the transformation is almost what you've seen before on a bunch of Legion figures, kind of taking from the Datsun aesthetic without the wings. You pull the arms out, classic Legion engineering, pull the hood down, also classic Legion engineering, and this is where things get a bit weird. You want to separate these legs, rotate them around 180 degrees, although my copy has a tendency to have that ball joint fall off as a QC issue with mine. Doubt it'll affect yours that much. And then you take the back of the car and you fold it out like so to form the feet. The leg transformation isn't something I've seen at this scale before, and I can kind of see why. Now the robot mode is great from the waist up. You've got a lovely torso design, a lovely painted head, lovely paint on the arms, lovely sculpting on the arms. It's amazing what they managed to do with the speaker devices that he has in the film. And again, that head sculpt really captures his essence. They've even painted the eyes, which again on a figure this small isn't quite common. But then you get to the legs, and I'm sorry, these are just a mess. Thighs are fine, these bits are fine, but then he's got this weird backwards look. And that's not how Soundwave looked in the film. He did have a backwards slope, but it wasn't that extreme. And yes, to a certain extent, this is a small Legion figure, so there's only so much you can do, but on the same token, there are much more effective transformations they could have given this guy. For example, take Bumblebee, one of the staples of the Transformers franchise. Take a look at his feet. These just fold down, you've got the things on the side. They have a remarkably similar aesthetic to these feet here, but it's handled far, far better. The proportions are vastly improved. The top half of the transformation is very similar, so they could have easily done that, but they chose not to. If I had to take a guess why, it's probably because they were trying to adhere to the license. Many movie figures prior to Studio Series prioritized vehicle mode accuracy over robot mode aesthetics. And this is one of those examples here. They probably didn't want to f with the car mode too much, because they were paying a lot for that Mercedes license, even if they didn't end up using it on a wide scale. And yes, credit where credit is due. Until recently, it was very difficult to get Soundwave's legs to work for some reason. You take a look at the Human Alliance version and the deluxe version, and they both have feet. Until we got to this year with the mainline release as well as the third-party Masterpiece versions, Soundwave had awful feet. That was just part of the character. But that doesn't excuse what they're doing here. Just because all of them did it doesn't make it right. And believe me, it's a real shame because there's a lot to love here. The paintwork is astonishing. The extra blue they've got on the abdomen, amazing. The fact that they managed to paint those tiny discs there, I can't get over that fact. They are gorgeous. They took that flat plane and did some amazing stuff with it. If they had fixed the feet, this would have probably been the perfect Movieverse Soundwave at this size. But as it stands, it's a little disappointing, especially given the rarity and the consequential price of the figure. Hunting down one of these is going to be expensive. I'm sorry, man. Not extremely expensive, but a little bit expensive. Fortunately, his articulation is standard. You get a ball joint here that gets you some decent outward motion. Ball joints at the hips as well. Because of the transformation, you also get thigh swivels, and that is a very nice touch. And technically, due to transformation, he also gets ankle tilts. Would have happily foregone that for a more traditional transformation, though. Ah, it sucks, man. I really want to love this figure because it does look great in most areas, but those feet, man. Anywho, size-wise, he is roughly 8 centimeters by 4.5 centimeters. And for size comparisons, here he is next to a standard Legion figure, and oh, look, they're the same size because they're the same size class. A standard Legends figure, a standard Earthrise Micromaster, and Crumbs. Despite all of his flaws, I can safely say that I enjoy this figure, but that's just personal opinion. When you really get to the nitty-gritty, there are issues with it. Might not be worth hunting it down, to be honest. I didn't pay a crazy amount for this figure, but I did pay quite a bit over retail. And I gotta say, I really want to love this figure, but it's not worth that price. Top half, great. Bottom half, get the f out of here. If you crave this figure like I did, you're still going to enjoy him, but if you've just got a passing interest in him, maybe just skip him. And if you want a Dark of the Moon Soundwave in general, well, the Studio Series version is more than adequate. Ultimately, I think I'm going to be keeping him in vehicle mode, because that is the highlight of the figure. And in many respects, when the vehicle mode is the highlight, that is a failure. But I can't get too mad over it. It's still a pretty interesting novelty to have it in the first place. I thought it would be much more difficult to get him, but I'm glad he's here now. But not every figure is rare because it is short-packed or cancelled. Some figures are just rare because of the way they're released. Some figures are only included in box sets, so are those figures worth it or not? We're tackling a double review tomorrow, or I suppose it's more of a quadruple review, and seeing just how good the mold is and how good the redeco is. So, catch you later.